Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to our Andor reviews. This is episode 10. I am Mr. Gamgee Trasnell, and I'm joined by,
I'm the guy who can't swim, Kirklin Patzer.
wow, just laying it out there, But,
It's a real thing. I
oh,
can't swim.
yeah. You can't? Yeah, right.
I can
Hold on.
float, I think. Oh, you got
What do
your
we got
lime
here?
Ricky. I'm all out. I gotta
Oh,
go hit the
yeah.
store.
It's
That
just
thing,
like
it's
on
like crack
camera.
now.
Yeah, it's great, right? On camera, though, it just looks like this green sludge.
It's
that
like
just,
radioactive,
it
like
looks
drink.
fake. But it's fantastic. But yeah, audio listeners won't matter. Apparently, not only in this match, I suffer broken back, broken camera as well. I say this is off to Kirkland off screen, but take all my gear over for one day, it's all fucked up. Won't register anything. Like, oh no, you don't have an HD camera. Done my fucking video camera, my Canon camera for a year or whatever now, and but here I am. So hopefully, my Black Panther will be all fixed. But yeah, speaking of fixing things. I don't know if they even fix things, but they make things in this episode. We're here to talk about Andor, episode 10. As Taylor and Kirkland already said in the newscast, I'll just reaffirm. I'll probably talk more about this on the Trash Told You coming out this week. Returning, starting weekly next week. Give me tons of fun. Look out for my rambling every week starting next week. I said that already. Much like these two, it's my first cast back since the 24-hour stream. I'm flustered because my fucking camera's being an asshole and everything like that. And like, oh man, all I want to do after this is watch the Love Is Blind reunion, but now I got to work on my fucking camera. But alas, here we are. Yeah, but a big thank you to everybody that came out, supported, watched, donate, was in the chat. Pretty good goal as far as or pretty good amount. We didn't hit the goal, but that's okay because $2,050, nothing to shake at. That beats 3 of our other goals we've had before, and the big thing was 10K for everybody else. So big thank you to that. Thank you to Manscaped, who's our sponsor. You'll hear a little bit more about that later. And then, yeah, Patreon, go over there, get episodes ad-free or early, exclusive, depending what tier you're on. There's 4 tiers. Go take a look at them, see what you like, see what you want. But the best thing is no matter what tier you're on, you support us. And it comes all the way back in the podcast. So things like side quests, things like Travis told you going weekly, that's all because of each and every one of you. And the big thing I will say to the patrons, because I haven't got any submissions yet. I'm not sure if people don't care, or I did post it pretty early, so they didn't, but I'll send a reminder, is Christmas movies. We need them. We need some Christmas retrospective movies to be hidden up for December. That'll be a fun time. Anything is on the board, really. I don't think there's any Christmas franchise we're like saving to do. So make sure you submit those. And yeah, anything else I'm missing, Kirkle?
I don't think so. I think you nailed it. Side quest, a lot of stuff going on there. Dylan and I just did our second review of Plague Tale Requiem. I know you and Taylor did your review for Gotham Knights, and my gosh, Taylor and I are also dropping a Modern Warfare 2 review in the upcoming week. So lots of great stuff there.
And then they got God of War next week as well too. So lots of big stuff.
Plethora of games. Yeah.
Yeah, and then as I mentioned too, by the time you're listening to this, Black Panther will be just upon us. Has it said in Kirkland that by the time we're recording this, in 24 hours, we've probably seen Black Panther 2? Because it hasn't for me.
It hasn't, except for like today. I mean, like you are like me. I don't have any school or work on Friday.
Like me. What does that even mean?
That is why you're like me. No, we're just off on Friday, so it's like
Yeah.
I remembered that the Black Panther was on Thursday, and it was just like a reaffirming of like, oh, tomorrow's already Thursday. It's this week's already done basically, and Black Panther, a great way to end it off. And I feel like the hype hit me maybe like after school today, like when I was driving home. It's like, oh shit, like Black Panther tomorrow. It's been a hot minute since like the last big Marvel thing. I guess that would have been Thor, right? Would have been the last
July,
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
What is She-Hulk not a big Marvel thing? Something wrong against Disney Plus?
big screen movie. You know what I mean?
Theatrical experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So those are always special. And are you in my theater tomorrow? Or are you and Taylor doing like the recliners with the terrible service?
No, terrible service. Why is Cineplex have terrible service?
I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I like to throw shade.
I'm in the Grand. I don't know where Taylor is. I'm in the Grand because I got babysitter, so I got to be there.
Yes. That makes
so
sense.
I think mine's at 6. When's yours?
6:30 maybe,
6:30,
maybe
yeah.
7. I don't know. I got the extreme, nice and
Yeah.
nice and big extreme. That's where all my like big Marvel viewings have happened. That's where Endgame was. That's where Infinity War was. So there's a lot of magic in that particular theater here on the west side. So I'm excited.
Well, speaking of magic, Kirkland, did you have magic experience watching this episode? Yeah, I kind of butchered that.
Speaking
Either
of
way.
magic, yes,
Yeah.
I really did. I mean, if you've tuned into the previous reviews, I can't remember what episode it was, but I had to like pose the question myself. I'm like, man, this might be my favorite Disney Plus show for Star Wars that they've done so far. I mean, I don't know. Maybe all of Disney Plus. Maybe that's too much of a bold claim. It's
That's
just maybe
bold.
I'm riding the recency bias or whatnot. But I can safely say now that this is like this is by far my favorite Star Wars Disney Plus show that they've done. I week by week they just keep blowing my mind on like what's happening. I feel like I didn't really have big expectations coming into the show, but because I've been enjoying it so much, every week I've been having higher expectations because it's like these episodes are so phenomenal. But this week's episode, it ramped up again for like the intensity, but also the character performances. I feel like I have a good handful of characters to really showcase. They were showcased in this episode, but I like to highlight, point out because their performances just totally blew my mind. A character that hasn't even been in the show yet, but he just had such a great first appearance, I guess, in the show. I'm excited to see what happens more with that character because he was really interesting. But yeah, all in all, man, I'm loving the show. I'm so happy that they went the 12 episode length because I feel like maybe if we didn't have like if it was like a 9 episode, we wouldn't have gotten a 3 episode stretch of Cassian like on whatever it's called, the prison planet. I forget the name of it, but you know what I mean. Like if it was just a more contained like 9 episodes, they would have had to rush some things, and I really don't think like I've had that thought at any point in the show. I feel like it's spaced really well, paced really well, and like next week's not even the finale. Like we still have a few more episodes left, so I'm so jazzed. I'm loving the show so much. I can't wait till it's all out and I can just like I don't know. I feel like around the Christmas months, that's usually I get into the like Star Wars mood. So I'll definitely be binging some Star Wars content and probably rewatching the show and just seeing where it lies even on like my total Star Wars like ranking. Yeah, maybe I'll have to throw on there on like the letterbox or whatnot. I'll have to dust off my letterbox account. I made the promise months ago that I would do my best of 2022. So I got to be a man of my word and get on there. But man, Andor, so phenomenal. My gosh, I'm so excited to talk about spoilers.
Well, I do think we have a Patreon episode in December where we're ranking all the Star Wars projects that have come
There
out.
you
So
go.
you're gonna have to get ready. But yeah, so it's been an interesting journey. Obviously, I was not on last week, so I watched last week and today's episode back to back at like 5 and 6 a.m. in the morning. I was working out watching this thing. It was quite an experience, but you know, it
You
felt
set
like
up
a
in the
nice.
gym or are you at home for this?
And I was at home for this. I was
Oh,
using
okay.
the Bowflex weights and stuff like that. It's now there are a gym during the day. Most gym time will probably be on the weekends. I'm not. I love the gym, but right now I'm not walking out there at -12 to go get a pump on. It's like you know what? I'll stay inside.
That's fair.
That's
It's
why I bought the
icy too.
Bowflex. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why I bought the Bowflex ones. But so I was like, okay, I gotta get ready for this review and stuff. So I was on last week. So there might be some things that blend over, but specifically, at least what I can say with this episode, I think it's with any show, it's a rarity, but especially with Star Wars, the fact that to me, you can say that maybe the best moment of Star Wars, the best speech of Star Wars, the best hour of Star Wars, the best character turn of Star Wars all happened just within this episode. This episode was fantastic. This episode too shot up high for I don't know where it is, but it's definitely this is probably a spoiler for one thing, but for the Disney era, I'd say this is a top 2 project for me. And that's with the movies as well, not just the shows. This and I'm somebody that like I liked the show enough when it first started. Thought it was already getting the Rogue One treatment. Those first 3 episodes to me was felt a little overrated. But any issues I've had with this show definitely went away, and they were all minor ones, but definitely have gone away. And this episode is something special. It's not just like Star Wars special; it's just all of TV special. There's multiple things about it, but everything's just accumulating to such a great degree, and I think that is because the episode length. I think 12 to 10 is like that for most shows. It doesn't have to be every show, but is a perfect landslide. But the fact that just this 50 or I guess it's like 46-minute piece of content that I could say there's so many things in Star Wars that I'd rank so high, not something I would have said before. Even with the first 3 episodes, but even the 3rd episode, I really liked. I was like, oh, I'm gonna walk away thinking some of the best Star Wars is in this, thing. There might be a few little moments here and there, but this was easily one of the best like hours or something like that. Tony Gilroy run you over super bad. Mike says, yeah, I guess he did. I still. It's so tough, right? Because this is a great example of this is a guy who, if you go back to interviews in Rogue One, he doesn't care about Star Wars. Star Wars is not his thing. Didn't seem like he gave much love to it. And I was never a big fan of because I hate that people always do this. They always talk about, MCU and director problems or DCU. And now I think people talk about, but it's like, we just want creative freedom where you had a guy who made Rogue One and then Tony Gilroy came and rewrote it, reshot it, and the guy just had to sit there, right? So for me and Tony Gilroy, I've always had like a and relationship, but he definitely won me over because there's just so much it just feels so adult in the best way. It feels like the type of Star Wars that you want, and people I think sometimes meme about that it's dark, but it doesn't have to be like that rated R sex, people getting sliced up. It's just mature themes, but they're very, with each story it feels stuff that's current, current in two ways. Current as far as it fits right into the time era, as far as the dark era right before the rebellion, but then current as far as just today and some of the politics. And there's a great scene with Mon Mothma in here that, oh, maybe
Oh,
I'm slipping, maybe that's next last, maybe that was last week, the one where she was minor spoiler. She was talking to the Senate and people are starting to turn off their lights and walking away.
yeah.
That was
That was last week.
but that's something where like that's today's politics, right? Where there's people could be saying, "Hey, this terrible thing's going to happen," but because it doesn't fit with their agenda or who they want to vote with, we're just not going to listen to it. But there's some great stuff that happens with her this episode. But yeah, I'm shocked how much I love the show now, and I'm excited to rewatch it with these. And even little creepy guys started to warm on me, like, hey, they're taking an interesting route. And I'm gonna
Creepy
echo
thin
what
man.
yeah, creepy thin man. I'm gonna echo what everyone else has said. That, man, if you want to talk about, and I think I always had him on the list, but if I want to solidify him as people, not only just the best actors, but as like in that William Dafoe of underrated actors that still just doesn't get talked enough about, Andy Serkis, man. Like, Dago was great, Genevieve was great in this episode. Stellan Skarsgård had a great scene in this episode.
Yeah.
Lots of great reveals, but Andy Serkis, man, he was the fucking MVP. I know we don't have a Golden Geeks for TV, but if we did, whatever category he'd be in, I'd be fucking fighting for him, because he just went on such a journey with these two episodes. But this episode in particular, my goodness, the facial, and now you see why this guy's so good at Caesar and Gollum, because he has to do all these like facial things with a fucking computer. So when you get to strip that all away and just see his performance, my god. And also add to that moments too, like some of the most heartbreaking stuff I've ever seen in Star Wars happens this episode. So this episode is just, man, it's something special. It's one of the best Disney Plus, not just Star Wars, like episodes of all time. I don't think I have a single negative thing to say about this episode. So,
Absolutely. Well said.
well, anything else? Can spoilers?
I think we're ready to unpack it. Yeah, let's get into it.
Ready to unpack it. All right. Well, we're gonna get our first ad break, and then we'll be right back, and we're gonna jump right into Andor episode 10. So we'll be right back. And we're back. So this is where I want to start, because that's where it kind of ended. But this is where I want to start, where we're gonna go through it all. Of like, I loved, again, some of it will blend over, but I loved last week where, okay, I guess 2 weeks ago, before we were talking about, okay, Andy Serkis was pretty in line. He had these shifts, right? He's very close to getting out, and we were like, okay, is he gonna be the hard ass, or is he gonna eventually turn? First of all, love the way it turned, as far as like you get out and they put you right back in, and rumors, like, it all made sense. I love the uprising of, hey, there's only so many of them, and we have to do it today, because eventually they're gonna start adding more guards. Like, all of it, like, it felt like a classic heist prison break type of movie, and I love all that type of stuff. I loved that a few episodes ago. But when they finally, I'm jumping to the end, but when they all get out and they're running out, and that's what everyone's talking about, they're memeing about, but still, I don't think my heart has sunk this much in Star Wars in a while, maybe since Han Solo died, when everyone's jumping and Diego Luna looks back at Kino and he's like, come on, and Kino says, I can't swim, and the only way out of this scenario for everyone to escape, be free, go live their lives, is to jump in water and be free. And the fact that we also don't know what happened to Kino, we don't know if he's stuck there, we don't know if he jumped and drowned, and we don't know if he went off. There's two parts to me that, like, man, I want to see him alive, because I fucking love, for such a minor, if I was to make a list of characters with like a limited amount of screen time, he'd be in like the top echelon of it. But like, the fact that I don't know if I want the answer, or I don't know if I always want to just be this question mark of, we just never know, because there's just something kind of, like, I don't know, kind of darkly beautiful about that this guy who was the key to breaking out. But man, that was just this whole journey of getting out, and that moment that hit me. Like I said, haven't felt that way since Han Solo died, or Ben Solo was a different reason. That was just pure hatred for Lucasfilm in that moment. But this was like, man, this is some great, just fucking grade A writing right here,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That moment too of like, you see Andor, like, or Cassian, Cassian Andor, I guess that's
Same
his
guy.
name. Andor. he just like freezes there, and it seems like if he had a moment, he would have like worked out how he's gonna get Kino out there, because like Kino was such a great, or he was like basically the main key on like really what made this escape successful, and he's just frozen there, and without even like intentionally doing it, because they're just like, it's just like a mosh pit going off the cliff. Like he just got taken himself, and
Oh
then
yeah.
that's the last time that us, the viewers, see the Kino. And yeah, it's totally heart wrenching because this guy that had been, as you mentioned, like he was totally indoctrinated into the system, and it's just like, yeah, I got like 200 days left or whatever, and then I'm out of here. And then I mean, you just saw it today, but like that twist that he has of like realizing really the reality of his situation and how he isn't getting out and how pissed off he was visually at the end of last week's episode,
Oh yeah.
is it just totally. He was unsure at the beginning of this episode, but you just see that total shift of him. Like realizing, like, okay, I know this is the one way out, as the title's titled, or as the episode's titled. And
One
but
way out.
just every little like motivating speech that he gave to everyone.
yeah.
The fact that one line when he's just like, the way that I'm looking at it, I'm already dead. So it's just like any additional thing that happens, like it doesn't matter if I die during the escape, we're already dead. So
Yeah.
like that just having as a motivator, it was so, I was so pumped watching this episode of just like the whole prison escape, because I already had like my Mission Impossible episode, which was the heist, and here we are a few episodes later, we're getting like another really action-packed sequence and so many other things that made this episode great. But particular for like the prison escape, that was just, it was intense. I was sweating. I was on the edge of my seat. I didn't know exactly. I feel like when we first got introduced to Kino, I kind of just assumed that he was gonna die like during the escape. It's like, okay, Andy Serkis, like, is he really gonna sign on to like a multi whatever project? I think he will probably die at the end of this. But I mean, I don't know. It didn't happen on screen. I truly believe that we will see some sort of fate with him. I don't think they're just gonna not mention it. But yeah, we'll see if that happens next episode or possibly in the finale.
I think there's a chance I think there's. I don't think we see him this season. I think they leave it hanging.
Really?
Yeah, and honestly, if you were to put a gun to my head, I think there's a chance we never get the answer. They always leave it hanging there because that's just. I feel like that's just. It feels weird, but when you look at geekdom and Marvel and DC and stars, I feel like we always get those answers. Right? Like what happened this? Because we're like, what happened? What happened? But I feel like in some of the greatest television shows, you always have those questions like, oh, what happened there? And there's always theories and whatnot. And if they were to leave this and not answer in some fucking comic book or book or something that they'd retcon later on, if they were just always to leave it with Andor of like whatever happened to Kino, I feel like that adds like such a great mystique to this show. As like you never knew it. It's just like, and that makes it more heartbreaking because if we just see him and he's outside living his life, that I'm so happy about that. That's fine because like me as the invest in the show that likes the character, I want that to happen. But there's just something so dark about never knowing what happened to Kino if he's just stuck there again. Did he go back and wreck more shop or so? And there's something with this show with it being so poetic, and it's not, and it sounds like typical. So it's not black and white, but I mean like you're not getting happy endings that much in this show, and that to me is almost not that it'd be uncharacteristic, but it would fit with the show to never get an answer with this.
Yeah. It's definitely like a bold option to take. I feel like I'm so I don't even want to say against it. It's just like I don't believe it's going to happen because Star Wars has never been bold enough to do stuff like that. But then again, I feel like I've seen stuff in this show that I've never seen Star Wars do before. So, I mean, you're not wrong. It would totally, like, yeah, I agree with you. I think it would definitely add to just the overall quality of the show because it is something that's unexpected from the viewer. And I would give huge credit to Lucasfilm if they actually did that. It's just like, I don't know. I feel like Disney, Star Wars usually likes to keep it safe, but the show has already been kind of borderlining on what they've done in the past. So
Clay says the guards would light him up right away. Maybe, but you never know. They were hiding in that room. Maybe he locks them in there. I just want to envision Andy Serkis going back and fucking them all up. And they just go back 50 years later and they just find old Andy Serkis there and everything like that. And they're like, Kino? And he's like, no, it's Snoke. And like, no. I know they're different people, but
it could happen.
yeah. But no, either way, if he's in more, great. I'm excited for it. But yeah, that speech that he gave to rally them all up, and Diego even gives him that speech like, you talk to these men every day, like this is the most important thing now. And that's what I love. Just like you talked about the death thing, even Cassian talked to one guy where he's just like, oh, I'm dead already. He's like, well, at least don't go down without a fight, like I like just this pressure on it has to happen now and it has to happen today, and there's no way around that. Like it doesn't matter if you're scared right now, you got to give the best speech of your fucking life right now, Kino. Like get on that microphone and go. And damn, he did, and everything like that, and I liked everything from obviously last week. We got some sort of hints of the breakout, this and that's starting to formulate a plan. But I liked everything about the heist. It's the same thing with Kino. Like last week, he gave the whole okay. There's 12 guards on each floor, and yet da da da. But in the very beginning of the episode, it felt like he still was. He said that kind of out of anger, and he still was kind of reluctant. But once, I'd say not even midway, I'd say about 25%. Once he really realized, okay, I'm never getting out of here. Because I like that cut of he's like, we're not going anywhere, and they kind of make it sound like, oh, he's saying that to the prisoners, like to shut up and get in line and everything like that. But then when he turns around, he's saying like, no, we're not getting out of here. Like we're gonna be stuck here. And that to me makes such perfect sense too, because I can't remember what we talked about when we had the discussion when they first went in the center, but to me that's such an Empire thing of like, why would they have you work and then you just go on the world? Now I still thought it was okay, you can indoctrinate them, get them in your system, but this is even better as far as no, they just never leave, so it was such a great twist. But I loved everything from the water, from the guns. I just loved them throwing metal shit at all the guards and stuff
Yeah.
like that. It felt just it felt good, and we lost still a lot of lives in that room too. It wasn't just like a clean, like people getting electrocuted, people
Yeah.
getting shot. So it wasn't just a very easy, hey, we overthrow the guards and yay, good guys win. It again, that's what makes it feel stakes, even if we don't know these people. The other thing I love too is the new man on the deck. When they brought him down, he like right away was like in on getting out of here, because I was like, what's this new guy gonna do? But he was attacking the guard right away, and then he got shot. But still, I like that he was already like, oh, there's a mutiny, I'm fucking doing this too. But
It would have been
unfortunately,
like
he didn't
Cass.
survive.
It would have been like Cassian first showing up. Like he was ready to get the fuck out of there when he first showed up, which is the same thing. This guy probably just got shocked. Like them showing what the system kind of is. We don't have weapons here, but we don't need them. And yet, like really, like when the rebellion was really like starting against the guards, it really felt like there was like a dam holding just like so much water back, and then like a little crack with like the first few people like getting onto the platform, like taking out a few guards. But once they actually like got their hands on weapons and were able to just open doors, it was over for you, the Empire.
Yeah.
Like just the floodgates open, and then like what ended up happening was like Andor was completely right. There wasn't enough guards to handle it.
No.
There was probably like 30 of them huddled in that one room, just like hiding for their lives. And it just like it was like I said, it was over for them. And it was just seeing that ramp up was really exciting, because when it was just that initial plan of like when Cassian broke the pipe, and it was just like the calm before the storm, like right before it happened, it's like this could easily go terrible. Like if one person missteps here, the guard could just shoot them, and then that's it. Like they're just up on the platform, they can't get out. But yeah, I mean, as they're saying, it has to happen right then and now, and of course it did. But as you mentioned, a lot of people died, got murked on the way out. But it was so intense. Yeah, I didn't know who was gonna die there, other than Andor. I knew he was making out that plot armor he's got.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. It's like like there was guns around, but it didn't seem like there was a huge amount of guns either. It felt like there was only a couple for each floor, because even when those guards were barricaded in that office, some of them didn't even have guns. They just had like the sticks or whatever and stuff like that. So no, that was all really well done and laid out. And at first I was still kind of like wondering. I understood eventually, but I was like, what? The water at first didn't play into it all. So I'm like, what the fuck is Andor even doing here? Like the water happens, it's just actually getting dudes shocked and stuff like that. So I'm like, what's happening? And then okay, the leak went through, and alert the next guy says like, oh, okay, like everything made sense from this. And we'll talk about the Mon Mothma stuff, but just from other episodes too, just the layering of just okay, this is gonna come back later and really make sense, and it does.
Yeah, the water actually like turned off the floors, at least. Like it like killed the power, because the guards were like shock them, and as soon as they hit the button, it like it hit the water, and it just like shut the lights off in that one room. And then they kept trying to hit it, and it wasn't working. I think that was the main purpose of the water, because yeah, when he was doing it, I'm like, these fucking idiots, they know that it shocks. Water's like the best conductor, so like everyone's just gonna die from like I didn't understand what was happening there. And then when the lights went off, it was like, oh, okay, it's lucky, I guess, that they knew that was gonna happen, but still, it looked pretty sketchy. And like Diego Luna just covered in water.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, that's the only time I had to suspend my disbelief. Where I'm like, okay, I could believe that maybe they're so busy, the new guy, they don't see him, but he's like fucking soaked. It's not even like just his feet. Yeah, he's dripping. Because at one point I'm like, oh, it's just his feet, it's fine. And then at one point the water's like, tss, he's like, oh, and it's just like, oh, well, now he's covered. Like, what the fuck? Like, wouldn't someone be like, I guess I think he just has that much sweat going on. Where, oh man,
He's working
fucking Kel or Keith over warriors working real hard because they're down a
Yeah.
guy. But
The way I had canned it was like he was just kind of in the corner. So like the guards were
yes,
kind of looking at the rest, but he was kind of
exactly.
down here. So
The whole time I was like, get behind the fucking machine, though, dude. You know, but
because he's like in the back room, but he comes out. It's like why couldn't he just stay in the back room that whole time? I don't know. I guess he's got to be in position to do the rod into the elevator
100%,
thing.
yeah.
So.
And I love too that he just hung out on the platform for a long time until he pulled up to like get the shot, and you're like, all this is going on, and then get the gun, shoots the guy and stuff. But for a while, I was like, fuck, is he just stuck there? What's happening? And then it was all good because they're taken out, and that's when everybody. And like I said, I just liked their plan. They just felt like hobbits, like just throwing just random stuff at these guards,
Yeah.
and it was working. And
It's effective.
yeah, it was. So a couple people in the chat says, Superbad Mike says, it's a shame this is the lowest viewed Star Wars show. Lucasfilm will learn all the wrong lessons from the ratings. I think that all depends on how much the show costs. Luckily, I'm not trying to like sound bad, but like Diego Luna, Stellan Skarsgård, like they're not like fucking A tier, like they're getting the biggest bills and stuff like that. And Clay has sorry, my God, I'm butchering it. It goes to the idea we always talk about is because there's no lightsabers. I don't think it's that. I think it's just now because I heard you guys talk about the newscast. And I'm not trying to meme on it and stuff like that because I've said it for years, but I still do think it has a little fatigue if people are just kind of done with this era. Even though if this is a good show, people are like, they want new stuff, and I feel like the prequel to the prequel of the guy that is gonna die in Rogue One is like I've seen this. You know, I feel like there's tons of mainstream people, especially if it's different if it's like we've talked about before, like a young Qui-Gon, because like, okay, we know he dies, but this is 20 years, 30 years in the future. Fuck, he made it in the past and stuff like that. Like, I think the problem is that it's so close to Rogue One and A New Hope, people might just go like, I've seen that story now, and I would disagree because obviously from what they show, they're showing so many different variations of, you know, what could be happening with the rebellion, the Empire, A New Hope, stuff like that. But I think on surface it just looks more, oh, it's just more Rogue One, and I've seen that before. And Diego Luna's not a big star. Andor, I don't think was the breakout character from that either. He was my favorite character. You go back to the review, but like I think people loved K2SO or they like Jyn Erso. So I don't think it's that, because I think that, you know, like a Boba Fett show did fine. I know eventually there was did Luke never, I guess they ignited their lightsaber, but that wasn't about that, but it was a classic character again, right? So I feel like you can have a show like this with a classic character and people would tune in. It's just that Andor's not that popular as a character, and I think it's just the same era and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, coming into the show, like I feel like I was in that category of like, this is a prequel to Rogue One. Like, okay, I like Diego Luna, but like, I'll check it out. But like, I wasn't like scratching at the bit to jump in this show.
There's other things we could be doing right now with this film, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You know, give me some old Republic stuff. No, I've swallowed that pill. I'm never getting that in the Lucasfilm era.
When Kathy leaves, you'll get it, I think. I think you will.
You think so?
Know? When James Gunn takes over and stuff like that.
He's just bouncing from companies to company. Just
well, hey,
CEOs.
what? The contract's 2022, right? So 4 years to 2026. Kathleen's 2024. They just wait 2 years. James Gunn's up. He's, you know, I'm joking. I don't think that's a good fit.
Give it to me. First thing out, Darth Bane trilogy. They just announced like 3 movies are coming out.
In the style of Peacemaker, though.
Oh gosh, I'm like scared of that, but also intrigued at the same time.
Just seeing like Revan doing the Peacemaker dance and shit like that. Everyone's like, "Fuck, I miss Kathy." We really had it good with Kathy.
I want to hear Taylor's thoughts on that. But I don't know. Like, I really hope that the word of mouth just goes really far with the show, because I mean, unfortunately, I haven't talked to a lot of people that have seen the show. I've been just praising it like up the yin yang.
Online numbers are really low too when you look at all the tracking and stuff. Like, because the thing is, Salma, we never had Salma numbers. I don't know if it's just so low it's not tracking. And there was some graph, I can't remember, a few weeks ago. I'd have to pull up a newscast, but it was like showing all the other Star Wars shows, and this one was like far down below the other ones and stuff like that, you know. But the good thing is with it getting a season 2 is maybe people look at it and be like, oh, well, that means season 1 must have been good, so I'll check it out. It's just also, I think it came out tough time because those shows are gone, but it came out time where Fellowship and House of Dragon were taking up a lot of the marketplace, and now I feel like once that was done, you have like 5-6 episodes of Andor. It might be that point where people go, I'll just wait for the end of the season, you know, because there's all these other shows and stuff like that. And Lewis says best episode yet. Annie and Stellan are amazing. This and Mando are in the league of their own. I think Mando at times, but I definitely put this way like favorites is a bit of different category, but for me as far as like best and well written, I put this far and above Mando. Probably just because some of the Mando Boba stuff has hurt it, but I think this is far above Mando because there's a couple episodes that are fun, but they're just kind of there. Nothing really. At first, I thought the show is going to have type of filler, but it really doesn't when you see how it plays with these 3 episode arcs and stuff like that. And it feels like everything matters now. Especially this episode felt like it's not in the finale, but it felt like this could have been the finale. It felt like this was the culmination of the whole season.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's some big reveals, like with Lenny, was that his name? That reveal that Stellan's. Oh my God, I'm turning it to Taylor. I keep using
Is Lenny his name? Imperial Guard Lenny. ISB Officer Lenny, is that it?
I don't. It doesn't sound right. You know, I'll check it out. But okay, it's right.
Do you want me to talk while you check?
Yes, you do.
So the whole time we see him cloaked, and I know what you're talking about. This. So this guy, he like said a command earlier and kind of pissed off. I can't remember what's her name. It's Dria, or I think it is. But
Daedra.
Anyway. Daedra.
Lonnie. Thank you,
Lonnie.
Fanboy Clay. There you go.
Still not really ISB thing. But when I saw him walk in alleys, dark cloaked, I'm like, fuck yeah, he's gonna be with Luthen. I'm like, please be with Luthen. Not because I am Team Luthen, but just like this is just like great spy espionage shit. And man, another moment when we're talking about everything from the elevator to Luthen's speech, everything. And this is where it's just like he gives this speech where, he's like, Lonnie's like, I want out. I had a daughter. I see what can happen. Like, I'm going to just go work on my parents' farm. I'm going to get out of this. And, he says to Luthen, like, what have you given up? And Luthen, now I like that he said everything, but I didn't want him to say everything because that's just like a generic line, right? How many times
I was
have we heard
expecting
that?
it. I was
expecting it. But I like that he did say everything, but what preceded that was literally laying out everything, like having friends, a romantic relationship, just actually living a life, going out, doing things, the decency of just getting to know people, not having to like live and die, like make life and death decisions every day. Like he just listed this like drier or dire list out of like, fuck yeah, his life really sucks. So that speech by Stellan was 10 out of 10, A grade. Like he's just so good. I love Luthen as well. But also what I loved in that elevator is when he talked about, they're talking about the loss of those 50 people, and Lonnie's like, I don't know if that's really worth it. He's like, well, 50 people would be worth it for you, like you're a hero of he didn't say the rebellion, but whatever they're calling themselves now. And I love that too because it reminded me, and some people won't like it, but remind me of that scene a lot in Last Jedi where it's Finn and DJ, and one of the moments I do like between them, that's Benicio del Toro, and he's talking about how they sell enemies to the bad guys and stuff like that, and then del Toro brings up the computer and he starts showing like rebellion ships, and stuff like that, or whatever, the New Republic ships, and he's like, oh, and they sell weapons to the good guys too. And it's that moment too where Luthen, he's trying to fight for the rebellion or create a rebellion, he's fighting for our side. But the fact that he was just willing to let 50 people die, I did not sit well with me. And that was, again, showing this side. It's like, even though they're technically the hero side, they're making some very savage cuts if they need to,
It showed a much darker side to Luthen that I wasn't expecting at all. But as he said so in that speech, like someone in his position, like getting a rebellion going, like what he's doing, like it takes those type of efforts of like I don't know if he did it directly, but he pretty much threatened this guy's like daughter, right? Like when he's like, oh, I heard you had a daughter now. And he didn't say it specifically.
He did a very matter point of view because he could just because he's like, well, I haven't seen you in years, so I'm just asking. But like, it was very
so he's like, he's so like crafty the way he does it, but like, I knew what he was doing there, and that same thing that Lonnie did. Like it's like, oh man, like I'm really trapped here, and it's like even just what you're saying with the 50 men that he's totally willing to sacrifice, and I now see Luthen in a different light. Of I really liked him as the charismatic art dealer or whatnot, and then also the spy side, and now it's just like a whole nother darker side. And when that elevator opened up, it was like equivalent to seeing like Darth Vader or something. Maybe not fully, but like still, like his cloak was like floating in the wind, and I was like, holy shit, like this is scary right now. And I didn't think I would be having that thought seeing Luthen.
I was worried for Lonnie. I didn't actually know if Lonnie was going to make it out, to be honest, just because like the way Luthen's done. And that makes me very interested because before I just thought, okay, this is the guy that recruits Andor, he sets him off and he dies along the way, and he's just like a mentor that he misses, right? Whereas like this adds a lot more layers of like, I don't know what's going to happen with this character. I don't think he's going to make it to Rebellion times, but like Clay brings up Saw Gerrera, it's like what fate is this guy gonna have if he's starting to do a bit more of these darker things? And even the times where now we go back to like episode 2 or 3, actually I guess it was 4 when Mon Mothma was like, "Oh, is this you? Did you do this? Have a hand in this?" And he just played it off like, "Oh, it's just I had to do it." Like for me, it was just like, okay, he's just like getting the job done. He's just telling Mon Mothma like, "Don't worry about it, I got this." But now it's like has a different connotation of, oh no, like he'll willingly sneak behind your back just to get something done if he feels it's right. It's not so much of like a, oh, I didn't have time to tell you. It's kind of like, oh no, he's probably using Mon as many times like he has or probably will in the future and stuff like that. And again, he's still technically his like the idea of like war, he's doing it in a way where he doesn't want to blow his cover. This will be good for Lonnie, and that would only get him promoted more and get him more power, and that could change the deck. So again, sure, he's making these right moves, but that comes down to why I love The Dark Knight. Is like the whole theme of that movie is, okay, you want to take down the bad guys, but how far do you want to go? So the same thing with this with Luthen. It's like, okay, once he's starting to take out like these 50 people, is it worth it at that point? And like, oh, so we know the end point and everything where, okay, the rebellion happens, but it's like, now I don't know if like Luthen is one of our main figures to that. Like he could be in a way, but I think it's more kind of like the Saw Gerrera thing where he's doing things the wrong way, and he's going to go down too much of a wrong path where you need to do what like Mon's doing, what Leia's going to do eventually, right? Of like certain ways, and it's not used to, like, look at the original trilogy. Our heroes don't leave people behind, and they're gonna save as many people as you can. Not like, hey, you never had Luke Skywalker being like, we're gonna let 50 people die so we can get Han Solo back. It's like, whoa, well, if we don't want to do that, Luke. Obviously, I know you're a space wizard, but yeah, that was a great scene, great reveal. Everything about that was just again top notch.
Oh yeah, we've showcased so many things of his speech, but another great line that I think he had to Lonnie there was when Lonnie is like, "Oh no, like I can't do this anymore," and then he goes on to say like, "We did an oath and whatnot," and then he gets into like the logistics of like, "Okay, let's just say I agreed to let you do that, like." What do you think the ISB is gonna do? It's like, oh, I'll just say for my health, like my family member has import business or whatnot. And then he's like, as you're saying the words, you're realizing that that's just not true. Like they're not just gonna let you do what you think you can do in that situation. And I think that was. And huge credit to the actor that played Lonnie there, because again, I never really thought of this guy. I've always obviously seen him in like the ISB room or whatnot. Really not thought much of him.
There.
But like just his like emotion that he showed in that scene, like he was like terrified of Luthen, but also like the realization of that he actually is stuck with the ISB, and he's gone down this path, and he's stuck in it, and it is like if I was in that situation and I just had like a new child or something like that, that's a lot of weight there, like you actually have a lot of things to lose, like. Let's just say this goes worst case scenario. The ISB finds out like they're so evil, they'll probably take your family and like just murder them, do whatever with them. So, I wanted to shout out that actor because he just like he didn't have many lines to deliver well, but the ones that he did, he sold me on them, and just the emotion that he showed on screen and just really feared Luthen. And I feel like. Up until this point, I never really saw Luthen in that vein. I feel like Stellan, he's just naturally like a warming dude. I feel like he just seems like a father type figure, but here is like, oh my god, this is terrifying here. So
you gotta watch some other ones. You gotta watch Girls Dragon Tattoo or Nymphomaniac. He can be a pretty dark motherfucker. This guy, he's done a couple. I feel like he was probably more known for that in his younger days, and even then those were older performances. But he can easily turn that on and stuff like that. And that's where now I can't wait to see him like interact with Andor next time and stuff like I can't wait to see what his dynamics are right with people, because now we have this different side. And I'm not saying like what people might think I'm expecting him to go like full dark side or bad. No, I don't think that. It's just that I feel like it just changes. It brings a lot of gray area to it, and not so much just hey, you want to lead the rebellion the right way, you want to fight them the right way. It's like, yeah, like, is it the right way if you're sacrificing these people? It might be the only way, but is it the right way? I don't know. So let's take another ad break, and speaking of House of Dragons, let's get into some Beach-Froven business here in a second, so we'll be right back. And we're back. So we got tons of details here with Mon Mothma and her story, I'm not going to happen, especially with these numbers. I'm happy we'll get her season 2. I'm just waiting for like a fucking Mon Mothma show to be announced any day. It's not going to happen. I know that for a fact. I know I got a better chance of my Qui-Gon show, but just love the actress, love everything. So there's a few things. One, just little stuff again hinting, but I feel like they're kind of hinting towards a bit of a power struggle with her husband and her daughter, because she just kind of made like, she can't remember that exact line about the gift that her dad gave her, and just something like, oh, my dad always lets me do this, something like that, where it just seems like Mom's trying to give some sort of parental guidance, but her dad is very nonchalant, so lets her get away with a few things. So that happens. We get revealed that her and Tay were an item back in the day in high school or whatever it was, and what I can't remember, whatever she said, childhood school or some weird Star Wars
Their
term.
planet.
No, but I mean, like,
was?
whatever they were calling their version of elementary or middle school, they're like, oh, from childhood school.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
it was something like, I swear she said childhood school, so I was like, this isn't a real fucking thing, but that's fine. But that was interesting because it's funny, we joked about that weeks ago about if her husband was going to think they're fucking around. And, like, honestly, now with them putting that forward, like, I wouldn't be surprised because he put that out there and he also just asked, like, oh, yeah, there's a lot of, curious folk around there. Oh,
That's
no.
that.
Yeah. You fucking my wife? Why do you come, Tay? But, like, I think that there's a reason, like, I don't think we're going to get to that point, but I didn't think last week, too, we were going to get fucking the Thin Man being very sexual towards Deidre. Or what's her name again?
Daedra.
Daedra. I think that's close.
Yeah.
Daedra. I'll do everything for you. You're my life, my dream. Everything. So it's just like, and we had that, like,
Heavy
mini
breathing.
sex scene, like, in the episode 2 and whatnot. So
Yeah.
I don't think it would put it past as far as, like, him suspecting that's what's up, because he mentioned that he used to date, and he also called him, like, oh yeah, there's just a lot of curious folk around here a lot of the time, like, and he mentioned Tay by name, so
Yeah.
lots going on there.
Yeah, like with the I don't even remember the husband's name actually,
Oh,
but
douchebag.
her
That's a
douchebag. So Mon Mothma and douchebag. I feel like it's just one of those things where like they were married like because of a traditional marriage type thing,
100%.
and like they've just kind of been like trapped in that marriage, but also like because this is your life, you just find a way to make it work. But they've clearly just had like their butting heads where like it's really not true love anymore. Like they have a daughter, and I feel like all the moments that the husband is like just I don't know, giving extra gifts to the daughter, lets her do whatever she wants. It's just like a thing to like get at Mon. I that's the way that I take it. And yeah, he's just like a pain that she has to deal with, and unfortunately it's something that comes with the job. Like she's a senator, she's very much in the public eye. I'm sure there's a lot of real like politicians out there, right, that their whole marriage is kind of a sham just because it fits that like narrative of what the character should be. And I think the show does that really well. And I don't even know where I was going with that Tay stuff. I'm liking the character of Tay. What were we just talking about though with Mon? Of just
we were talking about. Oh, I was saying if they were gonna ever allude to him thinking that there was something going on like romantically again, because he had that shot about they used to be an item back in the day. It's the same. I was like, what and stuff. So
it's tricky because I really don't know what like the fate of like this husband type character is going to be. Like, is he going to be someone that finds out and then he just rats her out? Is it going to be something that if he did that, like, it would completely change like the daughter, like her situation, like they just probably wouldn't be safe. So I don't know if he's smart enough to like realize that, or if he just doesn't give a shit because he's just like upset. I feel like he's kind of like, he's very much in just like a place of privilege that he is very comfortable in his life. Maybe he doesn't want things to change there. Like, and that's something that just puzzles me. I don't know what's going to happen with this husband character. It's someone that Mon just keeps have to be like secret around. I think it will come to a moment when, obviously secrets get out, but I'm puzzled on what's exactly going to happen there. And who knows, maybe he's just really pissed off at Tay just hanging around with his wife so much that he does more digging and like actually solve some things. Because as of right now, he's not really, he's not portrayed as like a really intelligent character. Like he's just like around drinking, eating squigs or squibs, whatever the hell they're called, and
But he did at least pick up that Tay's around a lot, because that's what he was insinuating, right? So he did at least pick up that, like, for some reason, And
it's probably like an insecure man thing. It's like, who's this dude hanging around my woman?
That's what I take it as. But I just wondering, okay, is that just an insecure thing for the show, or are they going to spin that into him figuring out that again? It could be the reverse of what happened to Bill a few episodes ago, of like him thinking, there is something going on, but when, like you said, he looks into it, there's something more.
Was that Bix's husband or whatever the hell his name was?
Bill, it was her boyfriend or whatever. Yeah.
Was it Bill? I feel like it was
Bill,
a different name.
I think it was a B at least.
It is the most like basic white dude name of all time.
Oh, I know.
And he just
in Star Wars,
got popped.
But then anyway, so Tay gives her the unfortunate news of, hey, there's only so much money we can get without being too, sketchy. A bunch of just like tax jargon exposition of like, okay, we need to get a little down dirty, and he has this
Yeah,
pitch.
they do.
Yeah, especially now what we know, but he has this pitch. She already knows what it is that he wants to get the assistance of like a big crime lord and stuff like that.
Davos.
Yeah, Davos. She's not really for it. She's really not for it when the news is that he wants to meet there. Which again, like I feel like couldn't there be a middle ground of like let's at least meet somewhere else? But fine, whatever. We meet Davos. Really like I don't know this actor, but really like him. I like his look and everything like that. And he says, "Oh, I'm going to give you all this." Like it's very easy, right? Negotiations is very easy. Seems like there's going to be no problems whatsoever. So not that I was thinking this, not at all. But like you're kind of hoping as if you're like, oh, maybe he's just also wanting to rebel and stuff like that. And he's like, oh, you're just going to owe me. And then she's like, well, no, I'll happily pay you money. He's like, oh no, I like money is nothing to me. Like he insinuates many times in this conversation, like he has every fucking cent or credit he ever needs, right? It's more like a favor. And she says, I don't really want to owe you any favors. And then he kind of pitches that not so much a marriage, but he is pitching a marriage of, well, your daughter's 13, my son's 14. It'd be great for them to meet and see what could happen. And she's like, a marriage? And he's like, no, I'm not saying anyone's going to be betrothing one another. Just, see if there's anything there. But again, if you read between the lines, that's exactly what he's insinuating in some sort of, because that's what I love very much. Like we talked all about that the whole year the whole season of House of Dragons, right? Where it's not so much about the blood lineage, it's more about the name. And that's where this guy knows where, okay, he has all this money, he can buy everything. But you know what he can't buy? He couldn't buy like a house, a seat in the Senate. He can pay someone off, but to actually like have your name there, to be like have a grandchild that will one day, inherit this thing or inherit this power or this position, that's something you can't buy. And that's where he knows why money is not. And man, what a great scene. The actress killed it was Mon Mothma. The moment when he walks out and she says, I'm not thinking about it. He's like, that's the biggest lie you've ever told, that you're not thinking about it. Or something equivalent like that. Just the gamesmanship. But this, like I said, this just felt like Game of Thrones and Star Wars. Like literally, and it was fantastic. Because this is not something I've thought about. Like, I guess there has been at times, of course, there's princesses and stuff like that in Star Wars, but they've never been used in that way, or we haven't got to see them that way. And that's where, like I said, I've always pitched, like, I want one day them to do like a full master and a Padawan show, because there's so much of that dynamic we don't get to see. So even with this, like, whether it be a princess or a senator, that never crossed my mind, like, oh, he's going to ask for her daughter's hand in marriage in a sense, because I'm like, oh, they just people are. They got high ranking positions. I'm like, no, I guess that would happen even in this like galaxy. And I love that that's something they introduced,
Yeah, and they're talking about like they're already mentioning the tradition that whatever their planet is that like I mean that was Mon and her
or something. But.
Yeah, that was Mon and her husband's situation, and I feel like she definitely like wants to get away from that because she's clearly not happy in that situation, and then just the prospect of her only daughter like going through that, and like this guy is just oozing sleazeball from like the get-go. Like she does not want to, like she was already against meeting him in the first place with Tay, but like desperate times. And this character, Davos, I like you said, I don't know the actor, but holy shit, I loved his performance in this. And this was like the introduction of a character that just blew me away because he just killed it on screen. I feel like every single line that he had, he exuded that like super rich just asshole. Like he does not give a fuck about others. Like it's just he is in that upper class, and he just plays these like politicking type games, and like because he has so much money, like he just influences so many things, and like it just shows like his morals when I think they're talking about just like the empire running things, and he's just like, yeah, I like the way that things are running now. Like I'm making more money. Like it's funny, even though people are just getting genocide by like the empire, like he doesn't even think about that. And just there's so many lines of him just like kind of flexing his money, like I don't have to worry about, or yeah, I guess it's essentially when Mon was trying to buy him off, it's just like that, like when I have so much money, like it doesn't even, that is zero value to me right now. And it is one of those favor type things, and just the way that he was delivering the information without saying the words specifically, it was just so masterfully done. So huge shout out to that guy. Like I said, I had a handful of just performances to shout out. We already hit Andy Serkis. He's probably the MVP of the entire episode. Diego Luna was great.
He's always great,
yeah, he's always great. And like for that reason, I feel like I just saw him as like lesser than all these other like standouts, because I mean, Andy Serkis was phenomenal.
Yeah. Plus,
Mon.
it didn't feel like an Andor episode, which that's not a
Yeah.
bad thing, but it felt like he was there and all the action, everything, but it felt like the bigger showcases was on like even Luthen for that one scene, where like
Yeah.
Andor's gone that in other episodes before, so.
Yeah, so Luthen, phenomenal performance. I even shouted out Lonnie. Not much, but like still, from what he got, he
Yeah.
did a really good job. And the Davos character just blew my mind with like I'm like I cannot wait to see this super grimy type character. Last week's episode, I was mentioning to Taylor how like interested I got of like the Star Wars bankers and just like the way that money kind of works in that realm. I got exposed to it going through the Darth Plagueis novel. So it's just it's an interesting take on or an interesting thing from Star Wars that I feel like is just so unknown, really, like from the main, like they never really talk about like these people that like make money move around, like to actually back a rebellion type situation, right? And now we're getting like introduced to it, and for me, it's so interesting, and just for like how that character was just able, like he went in there alone and he like won like the negotiations, like he was calling, like you could see again, huge credit to Genevieve and just her performance of the character Amon when she was like holding back her emotion of like she's disgusted with this guy's proposal, she's also torn because it's like this might be the only thing that I have, like I actually might have to do this, and she's battling that internally, but she's showcasing it like on her, just her body language and everything, and this guy is just like a shark sniffing blood. Like he's just like, oh, I got her. Like, yeah, okay, you believe that, but you don't believe that. So I'll be hearing from you soon. And he's just like these power plays. He's got like the what's his name, John Hamm, like Mad Men, just like super like confident like ambiance that he's bringing. Like, yeah, I love that character, and he was probably on screen for like 7 minutes or something. But I can't wait to see more of him.
Yeah, and that's where I think it's interesting where you get this episode where you just talk about Luthen, he's willing to sacrifice these lives. Now that he's in all these lives, but it's probably the most important life to him on. So it's like, all right, how far is she going to go now? It's like, again, that's what I've said before. That's what I love about Dark Knight. And that's where I feel like this show's hitting that too. Of like, okay, you have the bad guys, you know what you have to do, but how far are you willing to go? It's the same thing. Is she willing to? I don't think she will. I think she's going to find a way to not make it that her daughter has to marry this person, because I think that's a gigantic step, and that could be like a you can't come back from step and stuff like that. I'm not sure if she'll find a different route. I'm not sure if she'll get something on Davos where she could get him in trouble, but I like that they are kind of proposing that question the same way that we kind of got answered with Luthen, and now it's like, okay, in the next few weeks, how does she respond to a situation like that where you got to do something where you're really uncomfortable? Luthen completely accepted it. Hey, you got to do what you got to do, and then we move on. If this gets you in a better spot, we'll do it. Again, though, those are 50 strangers. Not this time. This is Mon Mothma's daughter, so it's gonna be interesting.
I was getting very much House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, just like vibes. Less incest, which is good, but still just like these marrying off to just for like positions, right? Like
that's how you bargain. It's not money or lands, unless you got a dragon. The next thing is a marriage proposal, So
it's fucked up.
Yeah. Let me check my notes, but I think I hit everything. There it is that I had written down. What about you?
Yeah, I think I hit all the character. No Daedra, no creepy thin man in this episode. No. What do you think of the creepy thin man? I know it's like the funny meme of him just being like a stalker now, but just like his overall where he was in the beginning. Are you liking it more? Are you?
Oh, I fucking loved. I liked it more because I like Daedra. Is that who
Daedra? You're getting close.
Yeah. Daedra.
Next week you'll get it.
I really like her. She's somebody that I don't know. Again, this is not anything. We're gonna do a stars ring. I don't think this would be on there, but to rank characters in this type of like the ISB Empire, like these officers. Man, she's high right now. I love her delivery. I love her motivations, everything like that. I love last week. There was just so much scumminess as far as them trying to turn their backs on one another. I love that she's starting to get fucking pissed off with her little assistant, because I feel like she feels her assistant's trying to like get above her. Because at one point, I can't remember if this was this week or last week, but they were in the meeting and the assistant like spoke up. And they're like, oh, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And then when she came back, she's like, oh, well, go send for this. And he's like, oh, I've already done that. So I feel like he thinks he's doing all this great stuff, but she's going to look at it as like a no. And I think the thin man might end up being her assistant person. Like, she's going to get rid of him because she feels he's trying to push too hard. And you're going to get this guy who doesn't want to move up so far. He just feels like he's obsessed because they have the same thing. But what I loved about it is it felt like it was kind of like a weird sexual thriller where like she's like, no, I'll have you arrested, but you felt like she was like you felt like she was wanting to put him in a room and just dominate him. You know, like that's what I caught the vibe the whole time. Like she's saying no, but like it felt like she kind of would like the idea, even if it's not so much a pleasure thing of just to have someone completely under her thumb that she could trust just because she's like kind of pathetic and obsessed with her. Like that's not exactly what they said in the show, but the way they had that actor portray himself felt like he was obsessed with her. Of like, I'll do anything for. It's like okay, and I don't even know if it is like a love sex thing. I don't think it's exactly that. I think it's just that he feels that they are somewhat the same person. So I really like the leaning into how pathetic he is with her, and that I think is a fun dynamic. So I think she is raising that character up and what they're doing with that character tying into that. But her, yeah, I hope we see her die a brutal death this season or next season. Like I hope we keep her around, but she deserves it because she's a piece of shit. Like last week when she's talking to Bix with the headset and everything, that was just a brutal.
Oh, the torture sequence, yeah. So cold-hearted.
Just even that way when the Big says like, "Oh, you get a little enjoyment out of this," and lots of times characters will say that about the bad guy, and you're like, "Okay, I'm just supposed to insinuate that because that's the line I was given."
Yeah.
But you genuinely feel that the way the actress portrays it is like she doesn't smile, she's not cackling, she's not acting like, "Oh yeah," but she just like has these facial reactions where she is serious, she's like in tune, doing her Empire thing, ISB thing, but she does look like she's enjoying it. So yeah, that actress really love, and I liked all the again, I can't remember if this was I think this was this week. Mon Mothma, the cousin. That's not her actually. Are they actually cousins? Vale or Veal or whatever her name is.
Oh, Vel. Yeah.
Or is that just a cover?
They actually are.
Okay.
Yeah, they actually are.
I liked all that dynamic too and stuff like
last
that.
Week, by the way.
That was last week. Okay, so shut that up. But yeah, Thin Man, I'm very interested to see where this goes now.
Yeah. It's I mean, I gave my thoughts on it, so I'll just quickly like recap. But like, it's the character in the early stages. I was like, get this fucker off my screen. Like, I hate this guy.
Waste of time.
And then just seeing him like so pathetic again. It's like I just want to be seeing other things. But now I'm actually seeing like, okay, like he has a purpose here, and just to have someone like Daedra, an Imperial lieutenant, I think is her title. Well, she's like an officer essentially, and she definitely hits that check of being like a very cold-blooded, like just a ruthless Imperial officer. Like she does not care about torturing people. She's just a bad person. I feel like the Empire are always portrayed that way, especially like the Imperial officers. At least from what I've seen, Taylor's probably gonna be like, oh, check out this book for this person who's so dynamic in their whatever. He has
bunnies and he has a farm for kids.
Yeah, but like the way that Cyril just caught her like off guard and like her reaction to it, it was like a very human reaction.
Times.
Yeah, and it's like I've never seen an Imperial officer put in this situation before, so it's something incredibly new. And I hate this character of Cyril, I think was his name, creepy thin man, but I'm intrigued as to what's gonna happen next. Yeah.
Disaster. What's gonna happen?
Not gonna be good.
Yeah, I'm excited for next week because we only got 2 episodes left, so we get the penultimate episode next week and then the finale. And just as I start to really love this show, it's gonna be ending. But we got season 2, so.
We had also a moment in here with Cinta, which was Vel's like lady friend from Aldani. I don't even remember specifically what she was doing. It seemed like she was on the Andor's mom's planet, whatever the hell that one's called, right? Or am I just totally
was that this
mixing
episode?
things up?
I think you might be. I did watch.
I saw her in this episode.
I can't remember. So no, I can't remember that.
It was a quick moment, so I definitely missed it of whatever was happening with her. It was a quick, like she's just, I don't know, boots on ground somewhere. But so
I guess she's in reverse kind of, because remember they did figure out that they were watching her mom's house, like Andor's mom's house, so she's like almost watching them watch Andor's mom's house.
I guess so.
Because they did mention that, I can't remember this week or last week, where they said like, we already knew they had a spy there, but they shut out with word in public everybody that they have someone watching Andor's mother's house, and that's why they didn't torture her or kill her, because she's older, so she probably wouldn't withstand the torture, and 2, she's an asset to see if he comes back.
Totally. Do you think she's in contact with Luthen or anything like that? I know Vel was kind of the in between there, but she definitely has like motivation there. Maybe it's just from like what Vel kind of suggested that she does, is like keep an eye on things, but.
No, I feel like Luthen's still. Because I think he still took a liking to Andor, whatever you want to say about that, and that's probably not a good thing for Andor, as we've seen with Luthen. He's like, I think about you every day, Lonnie. So like, you maybe don't want to be with Luthen, but
Yeah.
I feel like Luthen could still be involved somehow.
Sorry, say it again.
I said I feel like Luthen could still be involved somehow with that
Yeah.
situation. So
And last thing on Luthen too, I love that line when Lonnie's on the elevator going up and he's just like informing Luthen of like kind of what Daedra's doing, how like she think like she got this, blah blah blah, and just like straight away he's like, oh, that's perfect, like keep egging that on because they don't even know like what's like they're just wasting their time like focusing on that, and I'm like, oh, I thought that was actually really important. So like Luthen has plans that me the viewer doesn't even know about. So
yes.
this guy, he's playing 4D chess, and I'm a little bit scared as to how far he'll go, but still I'm very intrigued because to start a rebellion you gotta
break a few eggs.
Break a few eggs. I was trying to think of that saying. I guess there's so many different ways to say that, but break a few eggs.
Yeah,
it's because you're making an omelet, right? That's the saying. If you want to make an omelet, yeah, okay.
Gotta break a few eggs.
There you go. I'm educated now.
There you go. Well, we hope we educated you on this review. Check out all our other ones. Check out we'll be here for the next week's Black Panther. All these big reviews, and I promise you, won't be boring.
Bye bye.